use the word emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and,
Receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus.
You have accessed entry 567.JM0506, certificate number 23616. Harambe.
Ken, are you ready for a trip down memory lane?
This might be the most... Have we ever done a 2010s event? Have we ever put anything this recent in the omnibus?
I don't think so. I mean, we're very current, kind of Johnny's on the spot. So we talk about our modern era all the time, but we've never entered something into the omnibus.
Also, you kind of shocked me when you told me this was like pushing 10 years old. And I guess it's 8 years ago now.
8 years ago.
But this is good news for Generation Alpha. All those 15-year-olds who love podcasts.
Yeah, right. Or the 25-year-olds that are listening, they're like, this reminds me of high school, man.
Harambe.
For those of you who live under an internet rock, or for, I think, probably...
Is an internet rock a rock that keeps out the internet? Because it's
internet rock.
It's dense. Because you're saying somebody who doesn't have the internet.
No, I think maybe what I mean when I say internet rock is that your internet is... that people are living in truncated internets, right? Where all they go to their model railroading site, they go to their work site, and they go to Facebook, but all their Facebook friends are from high school, and so they're not out in the wilds.
There's one discussion group about their preferred college basketball team or basic cable science fiction series.
Exactly. And the news is curated for them by the fact that they only click on college basketball links.
That's what we thought the internet was going to be in 1998.
And for a lot of people, I think it is.
They missed social media. They're happy.
They're so happy.
You can tell them when you see them because they just have this smile, this inner peace.
For those of you with an inner peace who do not remember the social media internet world of 2016,
please let us ruin your inner peace right now.
That was. When I look back, I think 2015 was the turning point, don't you? I mean, when you think back about internet and where it went wrong or where you started to be uncomfortable there or it started to suck.
It was definitely before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's right. But if you had told me 2015 was the high point, boy.
Didn't seem like it.
We were living large, high on the hog. We didn't know what awaited us. I would believe that, too. It's internet time's different than real time because it doesn't actually relate. Like, if something happens to you in real life, you can be like, oh, the kids were still in high school, or that was the summer we went to Europe, or, but internet is just its own weird time scale.
For me, it was the election of 2016, where if the election of 2016, right. I mean, because we had an election in 2012 where there was an internet and there was social media, and we talked about it a lot, and it never was ugly. It was jokey. We were funny then. I hate to sound this way. It's such a terrible voice to take, but
because when you do this about the 50s, you can have the gravitas, but when you're like, but boy, things sure changed in 2015.
But it's true. That in the election of 2016, there was so much ugliness that suddenly appeared, and it wasn't just that the candidates were ugly. It was that there was a kind of a new generation of people online that didn't, and I'm not talking about generationally or age group wise. It's just that the population of social media quadrupled in that time, and the new 75% of the people on there were not funny.
What do we call it? Endless September?
Endless September. But Harambe, just in a nutshell, Harambe was a giant ape, a gorilla.
Like a giant one, like King Kong?
He was not.
I mean, he was a great ape, but he wasn't a giant ape.
No, he was a big boy.
He wasn't climbing the Empire State Building.
He was not climbing the Empire State Building. He weighed 440 pounds.
That's a lot.
So more than me, but not more than you and me. If you put us together, are we 440 pounds? No, we're not.
We're not.
We're not. So
We're not.
you
and me and
a dog named Boo.
who do we have who's like a fit friend? You and me and Ben Gibbard.
If you were on my shoulders and Ben was on your shoulders, we would be
The worst indie rock band.
we would be taller than Harambe, but we would not be as big as
And he could
Harambe.
still take us, I think.
You're what 160?
Yeah, 170 probably.
170. I'm 250. So we don't even need Ben Gibbard. We need you, me, and one of your one-eyed dogs.
Yeah, it's true. Well, yeah, I don't have a 100-pound dog anymore, but 440 pounds.
Yeah, so not the biggest of the big apes, but he's a big boy. The thing is, he's a young guy.
He's a mountain gorilla?
Yeah. Like a Central African gorilla. He is, at the time, he had just had his 17th birthday the day before. So he's a teenager.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. His birthday was May 27th, and the events of our show take place on May 28th and after.
I mean, this is a show about the internet, but I guess first it's going to have to be a show about everyone's least favorite thing, violence to animals.
Trigger alert for
content
those of you
warning
who didn't know about this already. And trigger alert to those of you. You should have seen it in the title if you already know.
No, they were like, oh, Harambe, that's a Swahili slogan. Oh, boy, let's find out more about that Swahili slogan.
It is a Swahili slogan. Harambe, the gorilla, was born in Brownsville, Texas, in a zoo. Not in the wilds of Brownsville, not in the swampy lowlands of Brownsville.
Like outside of town. Brownsville's a weird place for a gorilla to be born.
Unless you are imagining the global population of gorillas that are born in captivity, raised in captivity, live their lives in captivity.
Did you know that my second kid was actually delivered by the doctor who delivers the gorillas here at Woodland Park Zoo? Have I said that on the show?
No,
Yes.
Go on.
So we often think that explains a lot about. I just thought that was the coolest thing when Mindy said, "Yeah, I've got a new OB," and she delivered all the gorilla babies at the zoo. And at first I was like, "Well, I mean, is she a veterinarian?" No. She's a human OB. They call it, for primate births, they call in a human OB.
Whoa!
So my second kid was not delivered by a veterinarian, but maybe there's some. Maybe that explains a lot about their table manners.
Lol. There are over 300,000 western lowland gorillas in the wild, and there are 4,000 in zoos.
That's a lot.
4,000 is a lot of gorillas in zoos, unless you compare it to the 300,000 gorillas living in wild. But that's a lot. There's a lot of zoos in the world, and gorillas are a big attraction at zoos.
I'm sure they're still threatened, but gorilla tourism is so big in Central Africa that I wonder if this is one case where numbers are bouncing back from where they were.
I think it is true that the gorillas are doing better than ever before. The first gorilla born in captivity wasn't until 1956. So there were. But prior to that, every gorilla you saw in a zoo was captured in the wild.
I guess the western lowland gorilla is still critically endangered, so it's not great news.
So the eastern gorilla, the eastern lowland gorilla, is really endangered. There's only like 4,000 of them in the world.
But Harambe was
a
western lowland gorilla. Okay.
Yeah. He was born in Texas, and he lived there most of his life. He was named in a naming contest by a man named Dan von Koppenol.
A zoo goer? Like, did they just open it up to the public?
Just a regular member of the public with some Dutch ancestry who loved the album Harambe by Rita Marley, her 1982 reggae record,
Called
Harambe.
Harambe. I did not know.
And Harambe is a Swahili word. It's also in the motto, if not the motto, of the nation of Kenya, and it means working together for freedom.
I've been somewhere, maybe it's our zoo here, where there's actually a Harambe sign somewhere in their, in their kind of Savannah African themed section. I think it might be here in the Seattle Zoo.
Devoted to Harambe the ape, or devoted to
just
working
to the
together?
concept of Harambe, like, that's the kind of slogan you would put on a wall instead of live, laugh, love.
That's right. And so Rita Marley made it a hit record, and Dan von Copenole.
He's just a civilian. You don't care if you say his name right.
He's just a regular. He's a regular, and he.
If he was famous, you'd make sure you could say his name right.
I don't
but who
think I
cares?
would. No, unlikely. He was listening to the record, and he thought, "What a great name for this new baby gorilla, working together forever, or working together for freedom."
Well, nobody listening to a reggae record has all their faculties, Sure. It's not his best judgment. Maybe somebody listening to a reggae record should not be naming babies.
Turns out it's a great name for a gorilla. And Harambe lives in the zoo in Brownsville for most of his life. And then in 2014, when he's 15 years old, they transfer him to the Cincinnati Zoo. And partly it's like time for Harambe to be socialized, to live with other adult gorillas, to not just, I don't know what kind of, whether Harambe is like Esowit, like a fun, teasy,
spunky teen,
little teen.
I mean, gorillas only live to be, 30, 40, 50, even in captivity.
The oldest gorilla in captivity was 60 years old. So yeah.
And in the wild, it might be more like 35, right?
Yeah, right.
So he's a mature gorilla.
He's mature, but I think he needs a little bit of help, social help, and they move him into an enclosure with a couple of female gorillas, and I think he's thriving. Cincinnati Zoo is a nice place. He's having a good time there. He's a silverback, very handsome gorilla. If you rate all the gorillas,
I don't know if I would know like what a handsome gorilla is.
I think you would. I think you'd look at like 10 gorillas in Speedos or whatever. You'd
in a police lineup?
Who's the handsomest gorilla here? I think you'd have an opinion.
I would, but would my opinion accord with, say, the 3 female gorillas sharing the enclosure?
Maybe, maybe not. But I bet if you had 10 futurelings all deciding who the prettiest gorilla was, I bet there'd be some variation. I bet there'd be people that are like, nah, not that one. But I bet
there's probably a lot of agreement.
I bet you'd come to a conclusion like this gorilla. And I think Harambe was in the running. But on this day, May 28th, 2016, a typical day at the zoo, a little 4-year-old boy, three or 4 years old. There's a lot of work. There was a lot of work later done to try and keep the child anonymous because his parents got super doxxed.
Right.
But he expressed a desire to see the gorilla. He was there at the zoo. And somehow slipped the leash, climbed over a 3-foot fence. Not hard for a 4-year-old boy to do.
I've never had a kid who was a runner. Like my kids kind of stayed put, but my sister's kids were. Like you take them to Target, and if you don't keep an eye on them, they'd just be gone.
Yeah.
So
my mom tells a story of me at Woodland Park Zoo, where she turned around and heard my voice and looked up, and I was 30 feet up in a tree.
And you were inside a lion. 30 feet up in a tree.
Yeah. And I was like, look at me. And, she was panicking, full of panic. I mean, I was way up in the canopy.
You were also
like,
26.
Come down. No, I think I was 7, 6 or 7. Come down. We love you. And I climbed back down. But yeah, there are kids that are runners and there are kids that are stayer-putters.
Yeah.
My daughter is also a stayer-putter. But I was a runner.
That's because you didn't have a phone.
I didn't have a phone.
Go back in time and give you a cell phone. Who knows? You'll never climb that tree.
I had less sense then than I do now. Picture that.
Less impulse control, John.
I was the kid at Frederick and Nelson's who would hide under the
racks,
and then I would turn the escalator off.
You turn the escalator off.
Yeah.
I would hide in the circular clothes racks, but turning off the escalator is next level.
Well, I found underneath the racks, right, there's a button on off, and I hit the off button. The escalator stopped. It was a busy shopping day. 80 people on the escalator.
I'll fall over.
The staff had to come. They turned the escalator back on. I waited an appropriate 5 or 6 minutes, turned it off again, and then there was a manhunt for me.
Yeah.
Which was great fun for me. And my mom shopping, completely oblivious to the fact that I was creating this mayhem.
You're a little scamp.
I was a scamp.
No frangos for you that day.
And this little boy sounds like a scamp. He climbed a 3-foot fence and then crawled through underneath a 4-foot section of brush. So he got over the fence and under the brush before anybody could get a hand on him. And then over the wall. And fell 15 feet into the moat that separated the gorilla enclosure from the outside wall
Viewing area.
But the moat is not like the kind of moat where polar bears are eating watermelons.
It's just a shallow.
It's a shallow. The boy could stand in the moat, so it's not. The moat was not a deterrent of any kind.
It was not a gorilla barrier.
It was just kind of a lazy river.
Yeah.
So the little boy falls into the moat and seems fairly nonplussed by the fall. Not crying, it's pretty chill.
That's the new meaning of nonplussed.
Nonplussed.
Nonplussed used to mean very surprised, and now it just means unsurprised.
Unsurprised. It's both.
So is he plussed?
Both things.
He's plussed.
He's plussed.
Got it.
And the zookeepers immediately recognize this is atypical.
Situation.
This is a situation. And they signal to the gorillas in the language that all zoos now are able to speak to gorillas, right? They're all, ever since
Mr. Rogers learned to talk to Coco.
Yeah. Ever since Coco learned, what the zoos aren't telling us is that they all can talk to gorillas now. And they have they tell
the gorillas the news every morning. They translate Ira Glass's This American Life into gorilla.
It may be AI is just that the computers are offering these ideas to gorillas and then they are using their little typewriters. Yes, happy, friend.
I was always a little skeptical of some of the stories of the kind of conceptual thinking that Coco was apparently doing, That Coco he would have hypotheses about what the present could be or what he would get next year or whatever. And I would be like, really? I was a little skeptical.
Was Coco a boy?
I don't know. Coco was a gorilla.
Coco was a gorilla. It's so funny when
gorillas have gender.
When you put
Coco was a she.
Coco was a she. She was a mama.
And her name was Japanese. Hanabiko. Fireworks child because she was born on the 4th of July. I'm learning a lot about Coco.
Well, we were learning a lot today about all kinds of things about Western gorillas.
All of our primate friends.
One of the things that we learned about, or we're about to learn about, is the fact that the zookeepers were able to say through their system of Morse code and flashing paddles to the other gorillas in the enclosure, time to come in.
Well, even non-gorillas, what I've learned from talking to volunteers and employees at the zoo here in Seattle is that the animals are not remotely wild animals. No matter what they are, they're still unpredictable and anything can happen, but they have a very close relationship with their keepers. They know them. They know their schedule. They're not pets, but they have things in common with domestic animals at this point.
Right. And so there's a kind of bell or a
and they're like, oh boy, 11 o'clock.
Hey, it's Snickers bar
I'm
time.
about to get a salt lick.
So the two female gorillas that live in the enclosure with Harambe both receive the signal and go into the enclosure, and I guess are then the gate closes behind them. But Harambe sees this child, understands that this is a little boy.
Yeah.
Doesn't respond to the call and goes to the child. And the whole thing is filmed, videotaped by a tourist, somebody standing there. It's 2016. So what was the level of video camera on your phone in 2016?
It was good enough.
It was okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good enough that I probably, maybe if you showed me both, I wouldn't care even today.
You can go back to May of 2016.
Yeah,
There are
I've got videos.
Videos in your phone. So a bystander is taking videos, and the little boy is in the water, and Harambe goes over and stands in. I'm going to offer my take on animal behavior now.
It's probably very authoritative.
It's
based on the things you have just learned about gorillas in the last hour.
Well, and everything I say has a certain gravitas, but there are a lot of armchair quarterbacks in this story, and watching Harambe's behavior. I mean, my Instagram feed now is full of videos of great apes interacting with people through the glass at a zoo, holding up their babies, petting kittens.
Yep.
You know, it's a whole subculture of internet meme. Look how smart gorillas are. And I don't think there's ever been much doubt since the work of Jane Goodall that gorillas are complex.
Very smart.
Emotionally. But Harambe appears to recognize this child is in jeopardy and be in a protective posture, a kind of nurturing posture.
Like he would for a child of his pack, for a young gorilla in his. Do they have packs?
They're called murders, which did not help them in this situation.
Boy, they really shouldn't rethink that.
No, I'm not sure what a group of gorillas is called. It's a pack, a family. It's a family.
A troop or band apparently
troop
is
or band.
not uncommon.
I think of troops and bands as being more
That seems militaristic.
monkeys. No, it's like you have a troop of not. Well, I don't know. Listen, I'm not here to tell you what to call a group of gorillas.
Gorillas are always just kind of sitting placidly. They're not really trooping around.
Well, unless you get one mad. Did I ever tell you at the Woodland Park Zoo there was a group of gorillas there and a bunch of Americans in there waving at them and shouting and so forth. And there were some female gorillas closer to the glass, kind of looking over their shoulders. And then there was the big daddy gorilla off in the distance.
Silverback over there.
And I walked in to the room, and, I'm a silverback myself.
You were probably like grooming yourself.
I was picking little
scratching your
gnats out of
underarms.
all the people around me. And this big silverback turned, made eye contact with me, and charged the glass from 30 feet away, like a full-on angry...
Were you just like, there's glass? Or were you like,
no, it's totally scary. And everybody in the room recognized that it was some conflict he was having with me, because they all stepped back from me and looked at me like, what did you do? I was like, I didn't do anything. I just am standing here.
I like how they're with him. Immediate species traders.
Yeah, like, what the hell? And I was like, I just walked in the room. But it was very clearly like he recognized like, oh, there's a big male and he's silver and I am going to back him down.
You're not really silver.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I was no threat to this gorilla at all. But that's not how he saw it.
Were you eating a banana?
Nope. I was not actually picking gnats off of anybody. I mean, I wasn't wearing a shirt, and I did come in on all fours. But
I've seen you at the zoo.
Anyway, Harambe is in a posture that seems very protective of the little boy. And Harambe is nobody's screaming at him, but there's a lot of screaming.
Freaking out, yeah.
Oh, no, help, help. And, the mom is obviously distressed, but there are other people yelling, more and more people yelling all the time, as is true any time there's a conflict. And so Harambe kind of is in a protective posture. The little boy is totally chill,
He's just looking around,
not yelling. Well, he seems
he fell in a moat.
He seems pretty like psyched to be with the big gorilla. Like if a big gorilla came and enveloped me in his gentle caress, I'd be pretty excited too. I know a little bit more than a 3-year-old, so I would also be scared. Mm-hmm. But then Harambe does something startling, which is he grabs the little boy and runs through the water. Holding the boy kind of by the arm, and really there's no way to describe it except by saying dragging the boy. He didn't cradle the boy and run. He was dragging him like you would a
a toddler in the store.
Yeah, or but violently.
Oh, okay.
By our standards, he moves quickly and he's dragging the boy in a way that isn't gentle.
A red state toddler in a red state store.
There you go. And you can hear the crowd, ah! But then he stops, gathers the boy back to him, and treats him very gently. And at one point kind of stands him up, and the boy's not trying to get away. He's not yelling for his mom.
The boy seems just kind of bemused.
Like, this is great.
Harambe needs to pick a lane here.
Well, that's the thing.
Animal behavior is tricky, right?
That's the problem. And then they have a little bit more interaction. And again, Harambe is very gentle with the little boy, but then grabs him again and charges off some other, we're talking about a distance of 20 feet or so, just sort of dragging the boy like a rag doll. In a way that when you watch it, you're like, ow, like that's dangerous, right? You could hurt this little boy.
Yeah.
And then he stops again. And again, the little boy is either plussed or non-plussed, depending on how you want to misuse the word, but not...
the boy's never screaming and traumatized.
No, the boy never just trying to get away. He's never... not trying to get away. He does not seem terrified to get away. He's just having a time. He's having a time with this ape. And then, because this is... I guess just before a time that every single person at the zoo would have been taping this with their phone, and there would be 60 different perspectives on it, Harambe drags the little boy around the corner. And at least the video that we see, shared a couple million times on YouTube in the following days, we then don't see the dramatic climax. Which there is footage of,
like
reputedly.
Granny's a pruder kind of
type of thing. But what happens around the corner is that Harambe then takes the little boy out of the water. The whole time ambiguously careful. Takes him out of the water, takes him up on land, keeps him between his legs. And the zoo... Obviously, the mother of the child is still losing her mind. I mean, as I would be if my child were in the custody of a great ape.
Yeah, even the nicest possible great ape, you still probably want your kid back.
Exactly. The zoo is forced to make this snap decision. What do we do? And I think there's probably some non-insignificant portion of the internet that was like, save the ape, kill the child.
Shoot the hostage. Take him out of the equation.
There are way more human beings than there are apes.
Yeah, exactly.
But
the ape did nothing wrong. Like the kid got in the enclosure. Sorry.
But the zoo says, we don't know what this gorilla will do. And they're unpredictable. They are, if not wild, certainly not tame.
Yeah.
And although all this behavior does look nurturing, and we're all very aware that he could be very careful and loving and be trying to rescue this child, we also know that at any moment he could crush the kid's head.
So you're making it sound like this is not some kind of fog of war, who knows what's happening, like actual tactics and policy are being discussed at some level. Because
zoologists know all this stuff.
But there's time for there to be these kind of discussions.
Not really. There is a response that it's understood in the people at the Cincinnati Zoo what needs to be done, which is that the risk to this child is too great. Even though we love this ape and know him to be have a real personality, and this is absolutely possible.
We love Harambe.
That Harambe would bring us the little boy if we let this go for another 15 minutes, or that Harambe would rock him to sleep and feed him sugarcane. With all of that is possible, but the risk of Harambe killing this child is
non-zero, right?
Non-zero.
Even if it's just 5%. Yeah.
And think about the criticism. Not just criticism, but the risk to a lot of different human-ape interactions that would result from Harambe bashing this little boy to death. And so they, with one rifle shot, kill Harambe.
Is there no like non-lethal conversation? Is there
So there's a lot of conversation about why didn't
trank gun? Or,
why didn't you tranquilize Harambe?
Zoos must have access to that kind of stuff.
They do. They had tranquilizer stuff, loaded for bear all around them. But what we don't understand about tranquilizers is that usually when you shoot a mountain or a lowland gorilla with a tranquilizer gun, it enrages the gorilla.
It makes them less
and
less predictable, not more.
Yeah, and they spend 5 to 10 minutes storming around like super pissed before the tranquilizer takes effect and they go to sleep. So it's not like the movies, there's no animal tranquilizer where you shoot them and
it goes, its eyes roll up immediately.
So the danger to the child of trying to tranquilize Harambe or any of the other, I'm sure they were frantically ringing the bell and saying, Harambe, Harambe, stop that. And Harambe is a thinking, feeling creature, and probably, if he had a little box where he could have said, child, in danger, Harambe, rescue. But that wasn't, they didn't have that ability to communicate with him. And so they shoot him. And
shooting's not on video, or it is?
Not video that we have ever seen.
Yeah, okay. I guess there's probably tons of zoo surveillance that nobody's ever seen and nobody will.
Yeah, you're not, even 4chan didn't have access to all the zoo surveillance.
I just think zoos have cameras, right? Zoos have to have tons of cameras.
I have never seen the footage of Harambe getting shot. I'm sure there are people listening who have a disk drive with
Faces of Death Harambe edition.
70 terabytes of Harambe death footage, but I haven't.
It's very sad.
It is sad, and the footage gets posted, and immediately, like within 48 hours, the video has over 12 million views on YouTube, over 41,000 comments in the first 48 hours, because it strikes a lot of different chords immediately, right? There are the child welfare blogger types,
child in danger,
who are outraged at the parents for their awful parenting that would allow this to happen in the first place, and they blame the parents for the death of the ape, for the gorilla. Are there? When I say ape and then gorilla, am I going to get super mad letters from people?
You're good. Gorillas are great apes. It's a more general term. It's one species of ape. Don't say monkey.
So there's a lot of that kind of rage, like these parents should be held accountable. It also kind of really is a rallying cry for people who don't believe there should be zoos,
right?
Who believe that keeping apes,
this was inevitable.
Keeping apes in captivity is cruel on the face of it. That Harambe being born in a zoo and living his whole life in a zoo is already a crime.
Yeah,
like at a top level crime. And then all of the confusion about why didn't they tranquilize it? Why didn't they offer Harambe flowers? Why didn't Harambe already have child CPR training? Like just a lot of like people who don't know stuff, but this is the internet of 2016.
It's not going to stop you from having a take.
Right. Very different from the internet of 2012, where not all those people with takes had internet.
It really was, there really was just a sense that the worst possible thing would be to be without a take. Mm-hmm. Hundreds and thousands of people are saying something about the same thing. How do I carve into that ecology? What's my space?
That is exactly what happened. And those of us who were on the internet in 2016 remember very well waking up that morning, just having a regular day, and by the end of the day, not being able to escape Harambe. There was a candlelight vigil for Harambe in Hyde Park in London. Not really, where you would first think.
Not a lot of Cincinnati Zoo awareness typically
right.
in the West End of London.
Ricky Gervais had some things to say about it. Brian May, the guitarist of Queen. Donald Trump weighed in, defending the actions of the zoo, which I don't know what Hillary had to say about it, but boy,
that would be the pro-gun take, I guess.
Well, and also I think this is before Harambe became a meme representing anything, and it was still sort of it's a rare occasion where Donald Trump took the sensible adult position of like, well, what are you going to do? It's a little boy and an ape.
So at this point, all it signifies is people who are actually interested in the events of those 5 minutes. It has not become what it would become, right? These are opinions about what do you do when a gorilla gets a kid, because that's a real media novelty and there's video.
And like a lot of internet sort of outrage memes, it starts with genuine sort of gut reaction outrage to, it's not political yet, because caring for children is not political at that point in time. Now, of course, even caring for children has become political. But at the time, it seemed reasonable to say...
Yeah, it wasn't clear what the ideological divide would be.
You could watch that video and go, well, why did the mom let the kid fall in the moat? That doesn't, in most cases with sane people, lead directly to, I'm going to find out the mom's name and report them to the police. Most people just go, yeah, that's weird. Why? How did the kid get? But anybody that's had a 4-year-old, like you were saying, well, sometimes
they wander off.
They get away.
But that is an internet era response. Like, how do I play detective here? How do I get on the posse? And
people start, inflaming each other with that, and then it becomes a real social movement to the point that it wasn't just Child Protective Services. It was the Cincinnati police mounted an investigation because there was, within 48 hours, a Justice for Harambe petition on change.org whose goal was to prosecute the parents for the death of Harambe. And it had 338,000 signatures in the first 48 hours.
I mean, this is just all instinct, but am I wrong, or is that just an insane legal theory that the parents would have any kind of, possibly a civil liability, but
no,
there's no criminal.
I don't think Justice for Harambe was a team of lawyers.
Right.
I think that it's, it is an example of the mob
vibe-based justice.
Yeah. And these people should be held accountable. And I guess
you want to have a bad guy.
In people's minds, I guess they're picturing the mom and dad behind bars in stripy pajamas for the rest of their lives, with the little boy being raised in a sort of Annie-style orphanage where they sing songs.
Maybe the kid could be raised by gorillas.
Give the kid back to the gorillas.
There's still some survivors.
Very quickly, most of the primatologists and scientists all kind of step forward, including Jane Goodall.
Oh, Jane Goodall.
We all look to when apes are in the news. Jane, what's your thought? And she wrote a letter to the zoo staff at first saying, I know how much this hurts. I know this is a tragedy for you, and I'm sorry. Because people that work with great apes, I guess, talk to each other and all recognize, like, this is not easy. That wasn't easy for you to do. I know it was, not at the top of your list, but I'm here for you. And then
she's not here to condemn the
And then she made a public statement, a longer public statement saying, it's absolutely a tragedy, and to watch it, you would absolutely conclude that Harambe had good intentions and was being gentle, but Harambe is a great ape and could have killed that child.
You can't be certain
at any point, and so the zoo did the only thing they could do.
Jane, I was just thinking the other day about what an unusual figure Jane Goodall is. Like, I saw some advertising campaign where I don't know, maybe it's William F. Buckley or something, but it's always like, some virtue, pass it on. Have you ever seen these ads? Like Kermit the Frog is a symbol of whatever. And the Jane Goodall one says something like, even Mother Nature needs a publicist or needs a PR agent or something. Just this idea is Jane Goodall is the closest thing we have to a single human representative of that movement, in the same way that, we still associate Martin Luther King with civil rights, right. like Jane Goodall is kind of it right now for the person who speaks for the trees. She's Lorax of, we would say gorillas, but apparently by extension, everything,
Right.
the ecosystem.
Sure.
So, and she felt like she had to speak, you know, like, because otherwise.
Carl Sagan is another example.
Exactly.
What would Carl Sagan say? And then they find some footage of him going, well, there's no heaven and no God. So you're like, oh, God, that's
It's true.
blunt.
There used to be one space guy. I represent the universe. That's a good gig.
Yeah.
I have some sweaters and I represent the universe.
If Jane Goodall had come out against the shooting of Harambe, I don't know what would have happened. It would have been a disaster for the zoo and for all zoos.
Yeah.
But Jane Goodall is not against zoos and not against what happened. And I mean, she's against it. Obviously, she was devastated.
She wasn't
by
gunning
it.
for Harambe. She didn't have any kind of vendetta. That would be weird.
The director of the zoo was a man named Thane Maynard, and he, was very quick to say, "Look, this child was at risk, and this was all we could do, but we hated doing it, and it's a massive tragedy for us." And Jane Goodall was supportive of him, and that should have put to rest, I think, most of the sensible people saying,
Yeah, like
what a tragedy.
Animal experts would agree with me that you should be prosecuted.
Yeah, but of course, now
expertise is not what it was, John. I don't know if you've heard.
No, it's not. And even a personage as lofty as Jack Hanna,
Wow.
zookeeper of
Jack
David
Hanna's
Letterman.
still alive?
Yeah. Jack Hanna, well, he was alive then. He also said, he was the one that first introduced look, tranquilizer darts don't work like that. And then famous Dutch zoologist Frans de Waal.
No idea. Jack Hanna is still alive, by the way.
Yeah. And de Waal just died, and he was a big part of the conversation about look, yes, he looked like a gentle giant, but also
he's still very strong and
he could break your neck.
unpredictable.
Yeah. Interestingly, in 2016, that was the year, if you recall, that David Bowie died, that Prince died, that Muhammad Ali died.
Prince and Bowie seemed like they were just a week apart. Am I remembering this right?
And that spring, I mean, we're only in May, and all those people had already died, and Lemmy too, maybe the loftiest of all those.
I never saw Prince or Bowie or Harambe live.
Did you see Lemmy?
No.
Well,
have you seen Motorhead?
No, I never saw Motorhead.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of friends in rock and roll who seen Motorhead, opened for Motorhead, toured with Motorhead. They all have such great things to say about Lemmy, and I'm like, no, never saw him. I never saw Bowie either, but I did see Prince multiple times. That has nothing to do with this, except that
we were grieving.
Very early on in the memification of the death of Harambe. Thank you, Harambe.
Harambe.
If you recall, in 2016, there were some social media properties and social media landscapes that kind of don't exist in the same way or at all as they do now. One of those was Vine, the original TikTok, the original short video.
My kids are still very nostalgic for Vine.
Vine was a whole social media universe.
Twitter owned, right? I think.
Well, not at first.
Is that right? Did they acquire it?
Yeah, they acquired it and then ruined it.
Nice.
But also, it was maybe the peak era of what was called then Black Twitter, which was a whole part of Twitter that the mainstream culture was kind of not aware of or barely aware of, but it was an expression of Black culture happening
in parallel
with mainstream Twitter, but kind of a whole separate universe
with its own celebrities and discourse that was kind of invisible to a lot of white Twitter users who otherwise felt like we knew what was going on.
And Black Vine in particular was an extremely creative space. There was something in particular about the connection between African American culture and the way that Vine rolled out and the kind of way you could use Vine that produced a whole style of media that was super creative and super, funny and deep. I mean, I remember being introduced to Black Twitter and Black Vine at that point in time and feeling like I had discovered this marvelous world that didn't intrude on my normal life at all. Never bubbled up. There weren't it wasn't producing memes that made it into nerd culture at the time.
Right.
But once you had a gateway into it, it was the smartest stuff I could find on the internet. And within Black Twitter, the very earliest memes about Harambe that were ironic appeared in the first few days, which were these kind of over-the-top memorials to Harambe. The point of which, the irony was, let's celebrate the life of Harambe because this internet outrage. At the exact same time that Harambe died, something like 1,000 Syrians drowned in the Mediterranean in part of their flight from the civil war.
Yeah.
Like thousands or hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, refugees were kind of drowning, washing up on the shores. But Harambe was the number one Twitter topic by a factor of 100. And so there was this irony around, this is some outrage that is being extended to this gorilla that is not being offered to real human beings.
And clearly, there would be a very easy parallel to make with like a black or brown kid being shot by law enforcement for doing something not unambiguously dire, the same way Harambe was not, right?
And so there were some early memes that were like the kind of memorial you would post for a beloved member of your community, like let's all get together to commemorate the life of our friend Harambe, within like script that you might find at a funeral home.
Yeah.
And within the culture of Black Twitter, that was instantly recognizable as a pointed joke
about the callousness of other,
and the fact that yes, this is how. It's a complicated, multi-level joke to the effect of, yes, this is we are paying tribute to this great ape, and he's right up there in the pantheon with Ali and Prince. A joke in a language that was reserved for a community that all understood, or rather, majority would understand the levels of humor.
So Harambe as ironic signifier begins on Black Twitter.
On Black Twitter.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
When I saw it, because I'm a little sheltered, it was already being filtered through white comics.
So the idea, well, what's interesting about 2016 is also culturally, it's a pivot point where outrage and transgression jump the fence. If you think about American culture, up until the mid-2000s, transgression was somewhat exclusively a leftist, progressive, liberal approach to culture.
Yeah, we're tweaking the establishment.
Right. You cannot transgress without there being an establishment, and the establishment is always presumed to be the conservative middle. And so the left had kind of a lock for most of the 20th century on transgression. We're the ones that are going to wear funny hats. We're the ones that are going to do weird things. We're going to poke at the big beast with our art and with our music and our culture, and we're going to get a rise out of you, the dumb normies.
But I guess it was inevitable with that voice kind of winning the culture war. Then the bear you were going to poke is going to be the dominant voice.
That's it.
Which is left-leaning art and culture. That's who won.
And so what we see right at this moment is, and this is a big part of the Trump culture that we're living in now, it was the rise of, exactly as you say, leftist art and culture had become the mainstream, and there was suddenly the option of and a language of transgression from the right. That now the right and young people on the right in particular,
we're the embattled free thinkers.
That's right. And we're going to poke at you and tease you and mess with you, and we're the real thinkers over here, and we're coming at you. And so outrage and transgression shifted ideologies. But of course, the left still thinks of itself, left art and culture still thinks of itself as transgressive.
Boundary pushing.
Because they're pushing at it from the other side. And I think that's what characterizes the mid-2010s, is suddenly there is no mainstream culture. It's just two sides of transgressors going at what they are, and they're both claiming the other side is the mainstream.
Yeah, we're being silenced.
That's right. We're the radicals and the oppressed, but the people that really have the real skinny on the world, and we're the, and that's right when the right started to say like, oh, we're the ones that are funny. Like our memes are funny.
You sensitive liberals can't take a joke. We just love your liberal tears, you snowflakes. Yeah.
So
despite no evidence that conservative America had ever been all that funny. I don't know what the what was the tip of the iceberg.
There still aren't any funny.
What were the? It's not like Dennis Miller got funnier after 9/11.
But it's not funny so much as can you take a joke, right? Like the right thinks that it can.
There's stuff you can't say, but I'll say it.
We can say it, right? And so right away there's outrage, there's response to outrage, there's mourning, there's mocking, there's mock mourning, there's mock mourning.
Yeah.
Right? Like everybody, and the thing is, it's actually a real tragedy, right? You don't want to see Harambe killed. So at every level of the irony, there's also earnestness, where nobody is happy that the ape got shot, but we're mocking the people that are too upset about it. Well, the people that are too upset about it are, depending on who you want to point the finger at, either mommy bloggers or like gun people or it's already a jumble. Is it?
Yeah. And it's a good arena for this because it doesn't neatly align with, it's not like a cop kills a kid in a hoodie where immediately it's clear, like, are you law and order or are you sympathetic to the oppressed versus the oppressor? Like here it's less charged. So joking is more possible. There's more freedom around the edges to, you don't feel as bad maybe if it gets ironized too quickly the way you would if a person had died 2 days ago and now we're making funny vines about it. Something about it seems but it's still a sad thing,
Yeah.
I thought it was weird how quickly it became. We're not actually sad that a gorilla died anymore,
Well, and in 2014, the Ice Bucket Challenge was the meme of the year. In 2015, it was that gold dress that either you saw it as black and blue or gold and white or something. I don't remember which it was. Which was
it? White and gold or black and blue?
Right.
But then maybe that guy just killed his wife or something? Have you been following that?
No, my God, I don't want to know.
There's a sequel you do not want to know about.
Those memes actually got people screaming at each other on the internet, but there were no stakes. Who cares if you see the dress?
If you hear Yanni or Laurel.
Yeah, I mean, you think Ice Bucket Challenge is stupid, okay, or you don't, whatever. But this became very quickly a meme of outrage and mockery and irony and earnestness that
it's self-evidently poor taste in a way that the other stuff is not.
Right. And you can be both mocking and earnest in the same voice. You can really believe that
I'm advocating for Harambe.
Yeah, that Harambe was murdered.
His unjust death.
And also mocking people who are shedding liberal tears over it. And the different sides really played into it. I mean, one of the first big memes that happened, some ding-dong Vine comedian, and the internet will refer to these people as comedians. Comedian so-and-so, what was the guy's name? Comedian Brandon Wardell.
Well, I know Brandon Wardell.
Personally?
And he is a stand-up.
Is he?
But he is some kind of like boy wonder. Like he was just some high schooler doing stand-up when he was 17.
How did you meet Brandon Wardell?
He was doing, I just knew him from Twitter, and he was doing comedy in Seattle. And I came backstage at the show and said hi.
Was it at the Rendezvous, or was it at that comedy venue in the U District? Or?
No, it was Laughs. No, it was some weird place on Capitol Hill.
Right.
Like it was
yeah.
Do you know this place?
Yeah, I do. I've been to it.
It's like coffee shop by day, but then, is that place even still open?
No. But yeah, that's exactly what I mean by
I had forgotten about his Harambe take.
So there was some other Vine comedian. And the thing, when I disparage them as Vine comedians, when you look at pictures of them from 2016, they're like 20.
Yeah.
But
I just watched a Curb Your Enthusiasm that had Brandon in it for a second.
Oh, well, there you go. So Brandon's made it. He's one of the rare
That's right.
Vine comedians that became a working comedian. Brandon, I am sorry that I disparaged you as a Vine comedian, although really, come on. But someone on Twitter by the name of, or with the handle @Sexual Jumanji.
See, this guy you can make fun of.
Posted a picture of himself pointing like a toy pistol at the camera, at his selfie camera. And he said, "We coming with those dicks out to avenge Harambe."
And this is slang. Like we're coming with guns blazing. That's what dicks out means.
Dicks out.
Dicks out means guns blazing.
Guns blazing. And then Brandon tweets in response, or no, I think he just tweets
after obviously
having
thanks to the influence of,
because this is also the era of weird Twitter,
yes.
Right? And weird Twitter's over there being weird,
like all the non sequiturs, the crazier the better.
Yeah, super unparsable by anybody that's not already deep into a Twitter culture that uses intentionally bad punctuation and sounds like. Yeah, real.
But once your brain is broken, it is very funny.
It's so good over there. And weird Twitter, like Black Twitter, was part of the amazing, what feels like the last good times.
What a rich web of life it was.
But so Brandon Wardell tweets about having dicks out for Twitter, and then
dicks out for Harambe.
Dicks out for Harambe, and then he posts a video of himself with Daniel Trujillo, the actor.
Danny Trejo, the machete guy.
Yeah. And he says, "Dicks out for Harambe."
Trejo does?
Yes.
Brandon got him to
say it.
Great.
Like, here, say this, "Dicks out for
I'll buy you a
Harambe."
hamburger.
And he's like, "Okay, dicks out for Harambe." And that very quickly becomes a sort of college student chant that then gets...
At this point, it's 10 degrees away from actually having anything to do with Harambe or a take on Harambe.
Yeah, but it is, it's now, this is also the era of Bernie Bros. It is an early kind of activation of millennial culture power where the enemy, the bad guys in this equation are what? Zookeepers? No.
Yeah, we hate zookeepers.
The world that keeps animals in prison? Okay. What world is that? Well, capitalism. It's not entirely clear who the bad guys are, but the bad guys are bad. And the solution to it is to pull out your penis and wave it in support of, it's like the frattiest kind of cultural response to a thing that, this was kind of always the problem that I had getting yelled at by Bernie Bros, was like, you're literally in a fraternity at the University of Alabama. Like, I do not represent the problem.
These liberal lions today.
But then the response to Dicks Out for Harambe from the left was oftentimes sort of a hilarious overreaction in and of itself.
Like, this is what's wrong with the kids today.
Well, no, like UMass Amherst an email was sent by a group of RAs saying that Dicks Out for Harambe violated Title IX sexual harassment rules. And so you were not allowed to say Dicks Out for Harambe in the dorm because it was a microaggression. And that fed
a narrative about
the trolls, right? That now
these oversensitive kids today you can't even say.
And you can't even support Harambe or the liberal snowflakes are going to come down on you. And it forced UMass Amherst to release a statement. No, we support free speech. Of course you can say Dicks Out for Harambe on UMass Amherst campus.
Thank you. Finally.
Thank you, freedom fighters.
As a free speech absolutist, that was the greatest day of my life when I heard that.
And from there, as you can imagine, it went out into the world in increasingly bonkers ways. And the problem, of course, was that it was the alt-right who were just newly laying claim to the transgressive side of the culture actually took some of the memes from Black Twitter, posted them to their audience, and their audience understood those to be equating black people with apes.
Oh, so there were accusations of racism, even though the jokes had come from
almost immediately
from black jokesters.
And a lot of what was useful about saying, look, Harambe gets more justice than black people is that it's only a small twist to take that exact language and say, Harambe gets more justice than black people as a kind of racist meme.
Right.
That they're basically the same.
I would like to make this parallel.
Yeah. There was a early meme that basically compared Harambe to the Australian rules football star Adam Goodes, who, was basically like you see these memes all the time, like R.I.P. Adam Goodes.
Had he actually died?
Goodes.
This football player?
No, not at all. I mean, 4chan is full of this type of thing where they say rip somebody and then it's a picture of some other thing. But this was a picture of Harambe and it said rip R.I.P. Adam Goodes. Goodes. We could look it up how it's pronounced, but let's call it Goods.
But is the player black? Is that the issue here?
He's Aboriginal. And so, bears zero resemblance to Harambe.
Right.
But
still, that's an area to stay away from. I feel like we could agree.
And at the time, this is a classic example of an early version of, you can't take a joke. Like, ha, 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 that's funny. Lol, why are you so bent out of shape about it? It's a racist meme. And even The Onion came out with what to them I'm sure seemed hilarious, which was, an Onion report that said WWE wrestler Big Show was killed after a child entered the ring. And and it's like, that's very oniony, except.
Why'd they pick a black wrestler for it? Is that?
Well, I mean, WWE wrestler Big Show does not have exaggerated African-American features at all. I mean, he's sort of just a big, bald, goateed wrestler type person. But
so they didn't. The joke's not trouble on racial grounds.
Well, but he's ethnically ambiguous enough that it is not. It's comparing like a big man to Harambe in a way that can get repurposed depending on what point you're trying to make. And of course, the backlash against the Onion article also fed into the narrative that liberals no longer had a sense of humor about stuff because he's not a African American at first glance. But who knows? If this is we're living in a post-racial America. We don't know who Big Show and you wouldn't want to assess the quality of the humor based on like a detailed look into Big Show's ancestry, right? What if he's 20% this, 20%
I don't know
that?
how I feel about this joke. Let me Google his parents.
Yeah, right. That's not the world we're trying to build either, where you carry around a card with your ethnicity on it to determine whether things are funny or not. What seems like a thing that should have gone away, like most things on the internet after 3 miserable days, Harambe kept building and building. Elon Musk released a rap song called R.I.P. Harambe in 2016.
An early sign that Elon Musk is not and never was funny.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was lame even then, but at the time, Elon Musk was still the president of a company that was putting us into space.
He was like Mr. Future.
Yeah, and we had these hippie...
It would be like Bill Gates putting out a rap single.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, guy, like, weird. Where is that coming from? Throughout the 2016 election cycle, people were talking about writing in Harambe, and during the election, it was a popular meme to post your ballot having written in Harambe because neither of the candidates, were palatable to you. Then there was a misinformation campaign about how many people had written Harambe in. It's not a significant number of people, but there were all these memes.
Like it might tilt an election?
Yeah, like, if you hadn't voted for Harambe, Hillary would be president today.
This does remind me of the Kony thing that happened earlier. Do you remember the Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony, where just kind of got used as kind of a fill in the blank name for internet merriment?
Yeah,
like and almost independent from his actual war crimes or whatever.
And I think the similarity between Kony and Harambe, both as sort of they're almost like slant rhymes of each other. I think it kind of contributed to an internet sense of like, this is what memes look like, or this is like, Kony's not funny. You could have a very earnest take on Kony, but also it's now something that I'm putting on a t-shirt. Like, how did I? It
just became, and the very nature of how odd it is that it's a punchline is now the punchline.
Right. At one point, a Cheeto shaped like Harambe was put up on eBay. It's Cheeto, but it looks like Harambe from a certain angle.
I paid $65,000 for it.
It sold for $99,000 on eBay. I don't know if the money actually changed hands, but this was feeding the longevity of this meme.
And I don't know to what extent it made it into the culture. Like there were no late night monologue jokes about Harambe, right? Because it seems like a very hard needle to thread.
Very, very briefly did any top level culture people kind of address this, and it was always an example of like, what's going on the internet?
Like even the OJ trial, very tricky thing involving spousal abuse and battered women and all the rest. That was monologue jokes for months. We all had the idea of different comic takes you could have on that, for better or worse.
Right.
And this was just kind of its own little demi-monde, right?
Yes, except that we're talking about a generation.
Yeah, that's where the culture happens.
And now
you do not wait to see what Seth Meyers says about it.
Yeah, right. We're talking about people that now are in their late 30s.
The Cheeto only looks slightly like Harambe.
Yeah, so it looks like Harambe if you put a picture of Harambe right next to it
in profile
in a certain stance, and you're like, no, see? In October of 2021, now we're talking about 7 years later.
This is still the most recent thing that's ever happened on Omnibus. We have not mentioned Napoleon or Maria Therese. There have been no Habsburgs in this story.
In Wall Street, right next to the Charging Bull statue. Yeah. Do you remember this? This happened not that long ago. A 7-foot-tall bronze statue of Harambe appeared. And around the base of the bull were stacked 10,000 bananas.
Real bananas.
Real bananas. And it was a prank/promotion for something called Sapien.network, a social media startup.
Is it crypto or AI or both?
Well, it wasn't.
It's too early to be AI, right?
This is October 2021, so it's right in the middle of the pandemic. And it was meant as a statement.
Oh, it wasn't just like, haha, we remember this meme. It's not like a Super Bowl ad? Like,
no, it was.
They had something to say.
It was a statement. Yeah, so now if you put Sapien.network into the internet, you get a splash page that says, whoa, well, you get a splash page that crashes.
Your computer is now...
No, it's not my
inoperable.
computing. It's the machine.
No, that's what I'm saying. You've been hacked by...
I have.
By the whatever these NFTs are.
It's a splash page that, when I load it a second time, says founding the Sapien Nation, network state, and Republic of DAQs. What? What is? There are 30 plus founding DAQs, 30,000 plus citizens, $150,000 in total assets. It's an NFT.
Well, there you go. NFTs have long been associated with apes, John.
Oh, God, of course. Well, anyway, the premise was that these 10,000 bananas and Sapien.network were a statement on wealth disparity.
What?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
I mean, the Wall Street Bull is a place to put that, but I don't see how Harambe and bananas do it.
Well, Sapien.network is there, or at least they were in 2021, to put the needs of humans first. And what more demonstrates that than what could only have been a very expensive bronze Harambe statue.
Their Twitter has not been updated since late 2022. Sapien Network is in decline.
Well, there you go.
Very sad. They spent all their money on bananas.
Yeah, it provides onboarding that is easy both for individuals looking to join a DAQ and DAQs looking for their community's home.
I don't know what any of that means.
No, it's a Web.3, which I don't know.
Do you think it's maybe that's unrelated?
Gibberish.
Maybe that's unrelated.
No, I don't think so. It sounds like exactly the kind of gibberish that would also use a bronze Harambe.
Their Twitter says, committed to change and collective action, founding the world's first digital nation. Join the journey, and then a link to their website is sapien.network.
Yeah. Well, I think what they're saying is
that's where you are.
This is like
it's not DAQs, it's DAOs.
Oh, what's a DAO then?
A decentralized autonomous organization.
So it's basically
this is a crypto adjacent theory for a brave new world.
It's an oil platform in the middle of the English Channel where you can start a new society using NFT passports. So as you can see, I think, and that's a good example, like Harambe now is a shorthand for a kind of millennial conception of, depending on how you focus, right?
It seems very internet related, right? Like it's not a coincidence that you're using Harambe as a signifier for a new digital world.
And if you look at it one way, it's a Pepe, right? It's an alt-right shibboleth that allows you to mock liberal snowflakeism. But on the other hand, it's still also a leftist meme of cruelty against animals, of racism. I mean, it was repurposed. It's an example of alt-right criminality, like meme criminality. It's ground zero of meme wars, maybe.
This is a dumb take, but I'm against the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was just a sad freak thing with no good outcome.
Yeah.
Touching on both of our most sensitive spots, cruelty to children in danger and cruelty to animals. And it all went wrong, and it was a very sad hour and sad for the whole city.
Yeah.
And the fact that it got frog marched into being some kind of a weird
critique of civilization.
Yeah, signifier for something else. Leave Harambe alone.
It does seem like a turning point between the internet is stupid, and on the outside or on the other side of this, it was like the internet is stupid and really dangerous. I can't think of. I mean, there were people that got kind of crushed by the internet before this, but this galvanized tens and tens of thousands of people to a way of thinking that a lot of them, I think, are probably still stewing in their Harambe juice. The
overall takeaway, which is like, the kind of the anarchic 4chan. Nothing.
It was really 9gag, they say. It had nothing to do with 4chan.
Yeah, but the aesthetic of you can, we can laugh at anything. Who cares?
Yeah, right.
That doesn't seem to be the dominant voice of the internet anymore, although maybe that's just because it's gotten pushed down to angrier and more extreme people. But that certainly was the Wild West then.
Yeah, and I think the transition to a world we're living in now, which is one where every single group thinks of itself as an oppressed minority. Even the Republican Party, the U.S. Army, everybody thinks of itself as a embattled, like minority group that's speaking truth to power and is being crushed and desperately needs your help and support right now because the enemies that are, arrayed against it.
I guess that's a side effect of the death of the monoculture, because when there are, when it's no longer one, when there are just, nobody has a plurality anymore, right. If it's hundreds and thousands of small little institutions all arrayed against each other, then it's true. Everybody is an embattled minority.
Yeah.
We
120 million conservative Christians are being attacked on all sides by 20,000 people in rainbow skirts, and we desperately need your help right now.
We're very worried because of woke. The Harambe kid was 3 at the time.
Yeah.
13 now, still probably largely anonymous.
Hopefully.
Hopefully in practice.
His parents
not in theory.
were named in the world, and I'm sure there are people out there who...
I feel like he's going to pop up every 10 years the way the kid on the cover of Nevermind is, just...
Hi, it's me again, Harambe kid.
Yeah. Hope it's not at some point because he needs money. I don't want to see him interviewed in some 6-part Netflix thing.
Yeah, right, where he's like... Or rather, he starts a rap label, or
yeah,
he comes out with a record like, my next song is going to drop. It's called Cradled by Harambe.
I want him to be an animal rights guy. That would be a good outcome for this kid. I hope you're listening right now. And that concludes Harambe, entry 567.JM0506, certificate number 23616, in the omnibus. This is the downfall of social media that we are describing today.
Here it is. Our most recent episode. Are any of our recent episodes going to be anything other than just like, ugh?
Well, a lot of things have not been contextualized yet. I was watching the Ken Burns Vietnam War, and it's just so like you can kind of see the last word being given on the Vietnam War, because we now have McNamara's diaries, and we now have, we actually have, we have Nixon's tapes, and we have LBJ's tapes, and you can we have the verdict of history now.
Yeah.
So nice. For much of my life, I felt like we did not. Maybe it means we will eventually about Harambe or the Trump era or whatever.
Yeah. Hopefully history does not remember Harambe.
That'd be nice. Well, except for maybe a nice statue of him at the Cincinnati Zoo.
Yeah.
But if any of this made you just eager to check out social media, please go to look up at Ken Jennings and at John Roderick and various venues and places at Omnibus Project jointly. Email us at theomnibusproject@gmail.com with your own Harambe nostalgia. You could send us physical items to P.O. Box 55744, Shoreline, Washington, 98155. For example, John, I think when we recently talked about Kim's video, we were talking about The decline of physical media, and as a result, orphaned works, things that are no longer easily available. And at some point, did you mention Cocoon?
Yeah. Whoa, somebody sent us the Cocoon DVD?
Let's see if there's a name.
Only you.
Nope. It's Amazon gift receipt. This would have been your chance to be like, hey, John, this is Ben from Rapid City. Just thought you should have Cocoon and Cocoon the Return on this 2 DVD set.
But that is something that just arrived from Amazon. You can buy it. The physical media you can buy.
I don't know. Like, is this, did you allege that it was out of print?
I'm not sure what. I know you can't stream it.
That's the thing. This is still available, although I'm not sure how in print it is since Amazon's charging $25 for it, which seems a little steep. Like maybe it's out of print. I don't know. But anyway, some anonymous do-gooder wanted to make sure you had that.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. I don't have a DVD player, but you do.
How do you not? Oh, yeah, that's right. You don't have get a DVD player. They're like $30.
Yeah, maybe.
Where?
I just got a text. This is closing the loop on something we talked about in our last episode.
Like last week.
But Ben Gibbard says that the Barkley race is third PhD level ultra running, and he has no intention of doing it.
Plus, very disrespectful to the memory of Dr. King to turn his,
I suppose so.
To turn his Assassin's Escape route into a race course, maybe. I guess we turned it into a podcast. Where are those scissors that you tossed me before?
Well, you didn't toss them back, so
do I still have them?
Oh no, you put them in the jar. Put them there.
I don't even see them. Oh, they're head on to me. They look like a pen.
In the jar. There you go. See, I just tossed scissors at you in a way that resulted in them landing handles toward you. That's
the way we drew it up in practice.
That's how dads are supposed to contribute to the world.
Somebody sent us something very heavy, so I'm very curious about it. In fact, this is Colbin sent us what? It's very long and very heavy. Oh my gosh.
It's long and heavy, hey?
It only cost $15 to send, but it apparently is he cast a little jersey barrier. Is that what this is? Let's see. Dot matrix printer.
Nice.
Colby says, I thought you might appreciate these 1/12 scale barriers I made for a project. Here in California, they're called K-rails. He made a 3D model and had it printed into sections, then used that print to make a rubber mold, and then cast these in concrete. So these are actually... Oh, and he says, how do you like this dot matrix printer I found by the trash outside the local water company? Nice.
This is my kind of guy. Show me the jersey barrier.
I feel a little bad, but I am going to say that these did not survive the U.S. mail.
Uh-oh.
They are now...
Oh.
Now we have several jersey barriers.
How many of them?
Unless they were in pieces when Colbin sent them. I mean, they're still large, but they are now segments. I guess that's what happens when you send concrete through the mail. But he sent us a lot of concrete for $15.
Look really cool.
They look exactly like we're doing a James Cameron movie miniature, and a model truck is going to crash through these.
Those are so rad. Look at them. They're even the way the concrete is sort of aged, damaged. It just feels like the ones you would see.
The broken edges look exactly like what would happen if you saw a broken jersey barrier along a highway. Thank you so much, Colby.
I mean, that is exactly the kind of heavy clutter that any Marie Kondo would tell me I do not need. But how can you say?
Hard to say what we will do with it.
They're great paperweights.
But I'm glad they shared it. This, 'tis the season. We've been invited to somebody's high school graduation. Junipers. Congratulations,
hey, Juniper. I have a niece named Juniper.
Is this her?
Well, I don't know. Did that letter come from Selah, Washington?
It did not. It came from Hillsborough, North Carolina. Nate in Cape Cod says, thanks for making me smarter, and sends a postcard of some boats. That's very Cape Cod. Matt, Larissa, and Chad in Milwaukee are writing from the Mitchell Park Domes.
Is that a thing? Do you suspect that they are in a three-way relationship? Is this like a polyamorous? Like when three people write a thing together, it always suggests...
No, it's probably parents and a child.
Oh, of course.
And you had to make it creepy.
I'm sorry. I take it back.
I've never heard of the Mitchell Park domes. They appear to be analogous to those Jeff Bezos spheres in Seattle.
Oh.
They're like conservatories in a park in Milwaukee.
Well, that's cool. Milwaukee's coming up, man.
And one more thing. This is also going to be an invitation, isn't it?
We should reply to these invitations.
Oh, this one's a wedding. Did we miss it? No, it's in August. We can still go.
Where is it?
Chaska, Minnesota.
I've never been to Chaska.
It's going to take place in a sensory garden. Would you ever want to get married in a sensory garden?
I would think that being married was a sensory garden.
Congrats to Regan and Alexander. I hope your sensory garden of sensuality... no, that's not what it is. I hope that you have a lovely wedding day at the Arboretum. Should I RSVP for you, John? Do you have any dietary restrictions?
I don't like olives or potatoes.
Tell us what song will get you on the dance floor.
Oh, Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves.
I thought it was going to be Motorhead, but okay. I am going to put that down, even if you can't make it. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day at your wonderful wedding in August, I think.
Also, That's What I Like About You by the
What
Romantics.
I like about you. It is the Romantics. So there's the mailbag for the most part. The most important thing you can do to support Omnibus is to actually cast miniature jersey barriers out of concrete. But barring that, the second most important thing you could do would be to go to patreon.com/Omnibus Project and become a supporter of the show. Keep it going, and more to the point, access all of the amazing accoutrement that our Patreon crowd can take advantage of, including early access to ad-free shows every Tuesday, and at this point, well over 50, maybe 60, over 50 monthly addenda shows.
Isn't that incredible? And every one of them, I stand by. There's not a single one of those addenda shows that I would take back. Do
you often get asked to renounce any particular one?
Oh my God, everything I do, somebody wants me to renounce it. Are you sure you want to die on that hill? I'm like, no, I'm not dying on any hills. The times that I was at risk of dying on hills are in my rear view, Ken.
Well, also, the hills kind of implies a military charge, but with you, it would be what? You were skiing on the hills? You were, you fell asleep on the hills and it got cold?
No, militarily charging.
You were charging up hills?
Yeah.
Like the one at Gasworks Park? Here, I'm RSVPing to Regan and Alexander. But not with this pen because it doesn't work.
Here you go. Ready? I'm going to throw it to you. Handle first. Oh, wow. You caught that like a ninja.
It was, I caught it in the middle too. I could have gone straight into writing, except I caught it with my right hand, so it wouldn't have worked. I'm going to decline with regret. Sorry, Regan and Alexander.
Future links from our vantage point in your distant past. We have no idea how long our civilization survived. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come. But if the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may have been our final word. But if Providence allows, we wish you many goods and cheese and hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the Omnibus.